In the vast expanse of the night sky, two stars shone brighter than any others. They were not just celestial bodies, but the souls of two lovers whose tale had been told for generations. One star, on the left, was the Weaver, a woman named Jiknyo, whose beauty and grace were unparalleled. The other, to the right, was the Cowherd, Chang-un, a young man of humble beginnings but a heart full of love and devotion. Their love was forbidden by the gods, for the celestial beings believed that no mortal love could transcend the heavens. Yet, despite the barriers placed before them, Jiknyo and Chang-yun's hearts intertwined, their souls drawn to one another by an invisible force. They met each day under the light of the moon, in the quiet of the valley, where time seemed to stand still. The gods watched from their high thrones, displeased by the blossoming affection between the two mortals. Their love, they believed, would disrupt the balance of the cosmos. And so they decreed that the Weaver and the Cowherd could never be together, their love doomed to live only in the fleeting moments of twilight. Yet there was one exception, the seventh day of the seventh month. On this day, a bridge of magpies would form across the Milky Way, allowing the lovers to reunite. Jiknyo was the daughter of the goddess of weaving. She lived in the sky in a palace of clouds, where she spent her days spinning the threads of fate for all living beings. Every night, as she worked by the light of the stars, she would look down to the earth below. There, in a humble village, was Chang-yun, the Cowherd, a man who spent his days tending to cattle in the fields, his heart heavy with dreams of a love he had never known. Their worlds were so different, one of heavenly silk, the other of earthly soil. But fate had woven their lives together in a way that could not be undone. One fateful night, as Jiknyo gazed down at the earth, she saw Chang-yun under the glow of a full moon, walking alone in the field. She could not resist the pull of his heart, so she descended from the sky, disguised as a mortal woman. Chang-yun, startled by her sudden appearance, felt an instant connection. It was as if his heart had always known her, even though they had never met. Jiknyo, too, felt the same spark. They began to speak, and their conversation flowed like an old melody, familiar and comforting. In that quiet moment, under the soft moonlight, their love began to bloom. As the days passed, Jiknyo and Chang-yun's love grew deeper, but so too did the tension between them. They knew their love was forbidden, yet they could not resist the pull they felt toward one another. Each evening, Jiknyo would descend from her palace in the sky, and they would spend hours talking, laughing, and dreaming of a future they could never have. The gods, however, were not blind to the growing affection between the two mortals. The celestial beings, who had long held sway over the heavens and earth, saw the love between Jiknyo and Chang-un as a threat to their dominion. They believed that the balance of the universe depended on maintaining the separation between the celestial and mortal realms. The gods convened in a great council, their voices filled with anger and fear. They decreed that Jiknyo and Chang-yun's love must be severed immediately. Jiknyo was ordered to return to her celestial palace, and Chang-yun was bound to the earth forever. The gods could not allow a mortal to live among the stars, and they could not permit one of their own to fall in love with a mere human. But the lovers refused to be separated. Their hearts were too intertwined, too bound by the power of love. They fought against the gods' decree, knowing that no matter the consequences, their love was worth fighting for. Despite their defiance, the gods were unyielding in their decision. With a heavy heart, the goddess of the heavens summoned a great flood to wash away the bridge that connected the mortal world with the stars. The river between the two realms grew so wide that no mortal could cross it, and no goddess could descend. On the night of their final meeting, Jiknyo and Chang Yun stood on opposite sides of the river, gazing at each other with tears in their eyes. The stars above shimmered like a million tiny mirrors, reflecting their sorrow. "Why must we be apart?" Chang Yun cried, his voice breaking the stillness of the night. "We are bound by love, yet the gods will not allow us to be together. Why can they not see what we share?" Jiknyo reached out across the great divide, her fingers brushing the cool air, wishing she could touch him once more. "The gods may control our fate, but they cannot control our hearts," she whispered, her voice soft but resolute. "Our love will endure, even if we are worlds apart." And so, they were torn apart by the power of the gods. Jiknyo was forced back to her heavenly palace, and Chang Yun remained on earth, looking up at the stars each night, longing for his love. But there was still hope. The gods, in their mercy, allowed the lovers to meet once a year on the 7th day of the 7th month. This was their only chance to reunite, and they clung to that promise as if it were the very breath of life. The days turned into months and the years passed slowly for both Jiknyo and Chang Yun. Their hearts ached in silence, yet each knew the promise that kept them going. The 7th day of the 7th month, the only time they could meet. That single day was a beacon of hope, a time when the gods would allow their love to transcend the heavens and earth. As the day drew near, Chang Yun would look up at the night sky and see the two stars, the weaver and the cowherd, shining brightly. They reminded him of his lost love, of the woman he longed to hold once more. The nights were long without her, and the days were filled with a deep yearning. Yet on the 7th day of the 7th month, he would not be alone. He would wait beneath the ancient willow tree by the river, knowing that this was the day the gods had allowed for their reunion. On the other side of the world, Jiknyo also waited. She stood on the edge of the Milky Way, her heart beating in time with Chang Yun's. She had woven countless threads in the heavens, but the most beautiful one was the one that connected her to him. As night fell on the 7th day, the air seemed to shimmer with anticipation. Suddenly, a chorus of magpies appeared, flying in a great formation across the sky. Their wings formed a bridge across the Milky Way, a path that would lead Jiknyo to Chang Yun. For one night, the lovers would be reunited. Jiknyo crossed the magpie bridge, her heart racing with joy. The stars sparkled around her, the sky glowing in the soft light of the moon. As she walked, the air seemed to hum with the magic of their reunion. She could feel Chang Yun's presence on the other side of the river, his longing palpable even from afar. When she finally reached the other side, their eyes met. In that instant, time seemed to stand still. All the years of separation, all the pain and longing melted away in the warmth of their gaze. They ran toward each other, as if their souls had been searching for one another across all the years of their separation. "Chang Yun," Jiknyo whispered, her voice breaking. She had dreamed of this moment every day, and now, standing before him, it felt as though nothing else mattered. "Jiknyo," he replied, his voice filled with wonder and relief. "You are real. You are here with me." For that night they forgot about the gods, the distance and the separation. They danced in the moonlight, their hearts beating as one, their love stronger than ever. The stars above seemed to smile down upon them, and the magpies circled overhead, watching over the lovers. But as the dawn approached, the bridge began to fade. Their time together was fleeting, and they knew they had to part. once again. As the first light of dawn began to touch the sky, Jiknyo and Changyun knew their time together was almost over. The Magpie Bridge would soon vanish, and they would be torn apart once again. The sorrow of separation filled their hearts, but they knew that they would carry the memory of this night for the rest of their lives. "Promise me, Changyun," Jiknyo said softly, taking his hand. "Promise me that no matter how many times we are torn apart, we will never stop loving each other." Changyun held her hand tightly, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I promise, Jiknyo, no matter what the gods decree, my love for you will never fade." With tears in her eyes, Jiknyo kissed him gently on the forehead. "I will always wait for you. Every year on the 7th day of the 7th month, I will be here, and we will find each other again. And I will wait for you too," Changyun vowed. "No matter how long it takes, I will be here, standing by the river, waiting for the magpies to bring you to me." As the Magpie Bridge began to disappear into the morning sky, Jiknyo and Changyun shared one final lingering kiss. Their hearts beat as one, but the pull of the celestial realms was stronger. The time had come for them to part once again. In the days that followed, the world seemed to slow down for both Jiknyo and Changyun. For Jiknyo, the skies felt emptier without him. She returned to her palace in the heavens, resuming her work as the goddess of weaving, but her heart was not in it. She wove the threads of fate for the world, yet none of them felt as important as the one she had woven with Chang-un. On earth, Chang-un continued to tend to his cattle, but his heart was heavy with longing. Each day, he stood by the river, gazing up at the stars, waiting for the magpies to bring her to him again. He worked the fields and cared for his herd, but the passing days felt endless. Every evening he would look up at the night sky, hoping for a glimpse of her, even though he knew she could not be there. The years passed slowly for both of them. The seasons changed, the winds shifted, and life went on, but their love remained the same, constant and unyielding. They lived for the 7th day of the 7th month, a fleeting reunion that felt both too short and too long at the same time. As the years wore on, the promise of their reunion became both a comfort and a torment. The 7th day of the 7th month was the only time Jiknyo and Changyun could see one another, but it was always fleeting, like a dream that vanished with the dawn. Every year the anticipation built up to the night when the magpies would form their bridge, and every year the lovers would spend a single night together, sharing all the love and longing that had accumulated over the months. One year, as Changyun stood by the riverbank, waiting for the magpies to come, he began to question whether their love was worth the pain. It had been so many years, and the separation had become almost unbearable. The thought of another year apart filled him with a deep sorrow. Jiknyo, too, had moments of doubt. The vast distance between them seemed insurmountable, and even the magic of the magpies could not bridge the gap entirely. But each time she returned to the heavens, her thoughts were with him. She had promised, after all, to wait, and she could not break that promise. And so, as the 7th day of the 7th month approached, both of them wrestled with the weight of their love and the burden of their separation. Yet they knew that no matter how many years passed, they would always find a way to be together, even if just for one night. One year the magpies did not come. Changyun stood by the river, watching the stars above, but there was no sign of the bridge. The day turned into night, and the stars shimmered faintly. But the magpies did not appear. Hours passed, and still he waited. His heart grew heavy with every passing moment. Jiknyo, high in the heavens, felt the absence of the magpies. She looked anxiously toward the earth, hoping for their reunion. But as the hours passed, she realized that something was terribly wrong. The magpies did not appear. She tried to send her thoughts to Chang-yun, but there was no reply. The silence between them was deafening. As the night wore on, both Jiknyo and Chang-un were filled with uncertainty. Was their love so powerful that it could defy even the will of the gods? Or had their bond weakened over the years as time wore on? The gods too were watching, amused by the lovers' plight. They had tested Jiknyo and Chang-yun's love before, but this time they decided to take it further. They sought to see if the lovers' bond was truly unbreakable, or if their love would falter under the weight of time and doubt. Chang-yun and Jiknyo, however, did not give in to despair. Though the magpies did not come, they remained determined to hold on to each other, knowing that the love they shared was far stronger than the challenges they faced. When the gods saw the lovers' refusal to give up, they decided to put them to an even greater test. They summoned Jiknyo and Chang-yun to the celestial court, where they would face a challenge unlike any they had encountered before. The gods decreed that the lovers would only be allowed to reunite if they could prove that their love was truly worthy. To test them, the gods set an impossible task. Jiknyo must weave a new tapestry of the heavens in a single day, and Chang-yun must carry a heavy stone across the river without resting. If either of them failed, they would be separated forever. Jiknyo, determined to prove her love for Chang-yun, began weaving furiously. Her fingers flew across the loom as she worked to complete the tapestry. The threads she wove were imbued with magic, each one representing a moment of their love, a memory of their time together. But the task was harder than she had imagined. The loom was ancient, and the threads were difficult to work with. On the other side of the river, Chang-un lifted the massive stone. The river was swift and treacherous, and the stone was heavy, but his heart was full of love for Jiknyo, and he was determined to cross. As the day wore on, both of them struggled with their tasks. The pressure of the gods' challenge weighed heavily on them, but they continued, driven by the love that had endured through the years. As the sun began to set on the 7th day of the 7th month, Jiknyo's loom was nearly complete, and Chang-yun had almost crossed the river. Both were exhausted, their bodies aching from the trials the gods had set before them. But neither of them would give up. The love they shared was too powerful, and they knew that no matter what happened, they had to prove to the gods that they were worthy of each other. Just as the stars began to twinkle in the evening sky, Jiknyo completed the final thread of her tapestry. The loom glowed with the light of 1,000 stars, each thread representing a memory, a moment of their love. The tapestry shimmered with a beauty that could only come from the depths of her heart. On the riverbank, Chang-yun finally reached the other side. The stone was heavy, but his love for Jiknyo had given him strength beyond measure. As he reached the shore, he collapsed, his body spent, but his heart was full. The gods, watching from their high thrones, nodded in approval. Jiknyo and Chang-un had passed their test. Their love had withstood the trials of the gods, and it was stronger than ever. After passing the gods' challenge, Jiknyo and Chang-un were finally granted a blessing. The gods, who had once forbidden their love, now recognized its strength and purity. They were allowed to reunite not just for a single night, but for eternity. The magpies, who had once been the messengers of separation, now became the bearers of unity. They created a permanent bridge across the Milky Way, a path that connected the heavens and earth. allowing Jiknyo and Changyun to be together whenever they wished. No longer would they be forced to wait for the 7th day of the 7th month. Their love had earned them the right to be together for all eternity. In the celestial court, the gods smiled down upon the lovers, knowing that their love had triumphed over every obstacle, every trial, and every challenge. The love between Jiknyo and Changyun had proven to be more powerful than the forces that sought to tear them apart. And so, Jiknyo and Changyun lived out the rest of their days together, their hearts forever entwined. The stars above shone brighter than ever, and the magpies' bridge became a symbol of love that could never be broken. As time passed, the tale of Jiknyo and Changyun became a legend told across generations. It was a story of love, sacrifice, and perseverance, a reminder that no matter the challenges life throws at us, love will always find a way. The stars above, shining brightly in the night sky, would forever remind the people of the power of love. On the 7th day of the 7th month, the lovers' story would be retold as families gathered together to honor their eternal bond. The magpies, though no longer the messengers of separation, would still fly across the sky, reminding the world that love, like the stars, would endure forever. Jiknyo and Changyun, now together for eternity, would spend their days weaving new stories in the heavens, their love a tapestry that stretched across time. They had faced unimaginable trials, but through it all, they had held on to each other, proving that true love could conquer even the gods. In the end, the love of the weaver and the cowherd was not just a story of two souls, but a universal tale of hope. A reminder that love is the most powerful force in the universe, and that even the greatest obstacles can be overcome by the power of the heart. The legacy of Jiknyo and Changyun lived on in the hearts of those who heard their tale. It became a beacon of hope for lovers separated by distance, time, and circumstance. The Magpie Bridge, once a symbol of heartache, was now a reminder that love could always find a way, no matter how impossible it seemed. Every year, as the 7th day of the 7th month approached, families would gather to celebrate the love of the two stars. They would hang decorations, write love letters, and tell stories of the lovers who had defied the gods to be together. The night sky, filled with stars, would sparkle a little brighter, and the moon would shine a little softer, as if the lovers were still watching over the world. Jiknyo and Changyun, though no longer bound by time or space, continued to inspire all those who believed in love. Their story was passed down through the generations, a timeless reminder that love was worth fighting for. And so, the stars shone on, as the weaver and the cowherd looked down upon the world, their love eternal, their bond unbreakable, and their legacy immortal.